Welcome in to Around the Felt. We got the Week 13 recap. Here with me today is my co-host, Colin. Am I truly saying that? Am I truly seeing it? Can I believe it? I don't know. Colin, are you there? Or is this just a picture Jock put up?
We're back, baby. Come on. After a long hiatus, we're back for the recap. And my God, does it feel good to be back, my friend. Can't believe I'm saying this. I actually missed your dumbass face a little bit.
What do you mean, this one? No, it's great to have you back. Although we had a good, a bunch of different people step in and fill in. So shout out to all of you guys.
Yeah, shout out, guys. Appreciate stepping in.
Dave,
very, very much appreciative of everyone picking up the slack while I had to be out. But it does feel good to be back. You ready to roll? It was
we got to give a quick shout out. Man. We got to give a quick shout out at the start of this podcast. At this point in the recording, Caleb, who came on the predictions with me and Dave last week, 15-0 on the money line. The Denver Broncos win tonight. He'll go 16-0. He parlayed all that. That would have been a payout of $15K for a $10 better. So very impressive. But hey, he still hit a big parlay. We posted that on the Instagram story, and he just hit us up today. I guess he's going to be going on ESPN Miami, getting on the radio down there. So that'll be very cool for him. So exciting for him. And we'll post that link somewhere for any of you who want to hear Caleb on ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, that is an insanely impressive feat out of Caleb there. I mean, I'm not going to lie, 15-0 right now. And I do feel pretty good about the Denver Broncos tonight. So 16-0 is within reach.
Yeah, that would be pretty impressive. I mean, even the spread, he was 13-2. And, if the Broncos covered tonight, 14-2 that's impressive in its own right, too, on the spread.
Yeah. Do you have the picks up for you and I?
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. I know he beat Dave's dumbass in the big punishment, so Dave's going to be doing some punishments. Obviously, we got a couple of them done this weekend. At the time of this recording, the one of Colin getting egged is out, and I'll be posting one of me doing some fireball shooters with some trivia. Some hard trivia. In fairness, Colin didn't give me any softball questions.
You know what? They were certainly hard. I wouldn't say they were impossible. I didn't want to give you any layups. I thought you'd do better. Them. I honestly thought you get 3 or 4 right, and you got 1. So that's probably
no, 100%. So on the records, I went 7-8 on the spread, 7-8 on the money line. You're 8-7 on the spread, 11-4 on the money line. So a lot better on the money line. Nice. And Caleb, 13-2, like I said, on the spread. And Dave, I don't know if. I don't see your picks here, so I'm not sure what Dave did after last week.
Probably sucked, and the wheel didn't hit, too. Sorry to drop.
Who scored?
It was Javonte Williams. Unfortunately. Javonte, he has hit a wheel for us this year, though, so you can't be too mad at the guy.
Should have been Cortland. But it's all right. Wait, all right.
So
I don't know. Actually, we might just want to end the podcast now.
Hold on. In my 4-week hiatus, am I correct that Dave has to do 3 punishments?
Yeah, yes.
Dave,
that's
pretty impressive, Dave.
Dave is going to be doing the Taco Bell menu. Dave is going to be eating pizza with me. We're going to race each other to see who can eat a pie first. And,
I got Dave's minus 1,000 there.
And Dave is going to be.
I wanted to do it. I wasn't pissed off about it. And then I got to do. We did do some further research on purchasing the entire Taco Bell menu, and it's around like $400 ish. And
dude, the whole menu, that's crazy. That's
no. I told them just get just get one thing of Baja Blast, and then like the rest just do an assortment of different shit. Because I feel like that's if you did every meal. So like every meal on the menu is like fucking $15, and there's about 20 of them. So I feel like that's just everything. So it's every time you get it with the full meal, you get in the same sides multiple times.
I'll spend $100 on an assortment of shit.
Yeah,
I think that's
whatever.
Fair.
Just I don't even think you need to go that crazy. I would just get a good, good assortment. I don't think you're not going to finish it all regardless. So.
Hey, yeah, you know the menu best here, Drock. So you get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, and then obviously he's doing 70 push-ups in a very cool place where money is spent on the very pretty ladies.
No, that's nuts.
We're not doing that.
Yeah,
he does though push-ups out. That he does. Yeah. So he's gonna have to do it and do it somewhere fun. Drock. Don't be a loser.
Yo, my guy's got a bad shoulder. That's a mean punishment.
I'll do it at SantaCon next weekend.
That I like. Do it in the Santa costume. That is great. That's good.
That'll play.
I did say we'll get the Taco Bell punishment done, and I unfortunately did not get that done, but that will happen this weekend when I'm under the influence because it's gonna be easier to eat and I'll enjoy it. So,
and I will be here for it, which is
he'll be here for it. And he can record. We're gonna live stream it as well.
No, that's good. That's good. We need someone managing that.
Yeah, we should live stream.
It's honestly, I don't know who would have filmed it if you didn't have Colin there.
Yeah, I don't know what his game plan was, but all right, Reagan. There's a lot of news to catch up with after this past weekend of football. Starting off with some extensions here. James Conner, a 2-year, $19 million extension. Conner, a guy that's 30 years old. It's a good deal for him. And for anyone that's been holding Trey Benson in Dynasty like myself, I feel bad for you because he looks like a great pick. He was probably the consensus RB2 in this past draft. And now James Conner's in the picture for another 2 years. So good for James Conner, bad for Trey Benson fantasy holders. Your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for Trey Benson, but I don't know if it necessarily destroys his value. I mean, he's been kind of involved. I still think there's a world where it becomes similar to the Lions or that esque. I mean, I just feel like in today's league, it doesn't mean the end for Benson. And for Conner, it's great because he's looked good all year. He's an older back, but now he's got the contract security. And the thing with the running backs is also if he sucks after, next year, if it's a terrible year, you can cut him. I mean, it's not a lot of guaranteed money to these running backs. They're easy to get out of. So I wouldn't be too afraid of the contract if you're Benson. I mean, just hold out. He's still on the rookie deal. And, if they don't put a little wear and tear and shows enough, I mean, you could get that second contract somewhere else.
Yeah, and James Conner's a captain of that team. So very important piece in that locker room. We've seen around the league, my Giants, how a locker room could be affected when you lose some team leaders. So good for the Arizona Cardinals, good for James Conner. Andrew Luck has returned to Stanford as the GM of the football program. Pretty cool. Andrew Luck, man, was obviously the Heisman runner-up twice at Stanford. Unfortunately, his professional career got cut short, but hey, we're happy for Andrew here, back in the game of football. This is good. This is good news for everyone that likes football.
This is good news. Yeah, no, this is good news. And speaking of college football, I mean, obviously, bowl games will be starting soon. You have the conference games this weekend, so we'll definitely do, a big college football podcast, not this week, but some point next week after the bracket comes out, and talk about some of the bigger bowl games as well. But
I like that.
I think that needs to be a separate podcast from the regular NFL one.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because that alone, we could easily talk an hour about.
Oh, absolutely. The Jaguars have extended left tackle Walker Little, 3 years, $45 million. Walker Little was a very highly touted recruit going into college. Did not really pan out as well, but always had the tools. They trade away Cam Robinson at the deadline. Little has developed pretty well with the Jags, and they reward him by extending him. I think this is a smart move by the Jaguars. Now, I don't think offensive tackle is out of the question for them in the first round. I still think they need help along that offensive line to protect Trevor Lawrence. But, hey, this is a good deal for Little and a smart move by the Jaguars in locking up their left tackle of the future.
Yeah, no, I like it. It doesn't matter where your team's at. You got to pay the linemen. The good ones you got to keep. So makes sense. Otherwise, and with Trevor Lawrence, you would be doing him no justice. And obviously, speaking of him, he had I know you're probably about to talk about it, but
that was next
concussion.
Oh,
which
boy.
I don't understand why you even play him in the game in the first place. And I know it's he didn't have a head injury coming into it, but why were they playing him anyway? If he's not 100%, which he probably wasn't, and I guess it's hard because it's you're telling the player to not play football, but I would shut him down for the season. I still would have shut him down for the season. It's a lost season. Try to get the best pick possible and go and, either draft one of those premium guys with the top 3 pick or trade out because there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks and will pay up to get it. So I think at this point he will get shut down after that concussion. And it'll be the Mac Jones show who, isn't a pretty one, but looked all right this week.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence definitely done for the season, and the Jaguars are vying for that number 1 overall pick now. Mac Jones, yeah, he made some throws. He also missed Brian Thomas twice on what could have been touchdowns. We're looking at there's a world in which Brian Thomas went for over 204 touchdowns, but unfortunately, that's not this world because Mac Jones was the quarterback. But, it's fine. Mac Jones just is what it is. The Jags, they're terrible. They have 2 wins. The only thing with the Jags, yeah, they should get the first pick if they don't have Trevor Lawrence, but their schedule down the stretch is really weak. They had the Titans twice. They do have to play the Raiders. They do have to play the Jets. So there is a world where Mac Jones squeaks out a win or two, and the Jaguars are like, picking a little, maybe 2 or 3. But at the end of the day, they don't need a quarterback, so not as hurtful as the Raiders, the Giants, who are vying for the quarterback on the top of the draft. All right, let's talk about it. Christian McCaffrey, my goodness. Right when he starts to look really, really good in that game last night, PCL injury. And I watched the video. I didn't really see anything significant that looked like he.
I mean, it's so hard to tell with the snow.
It is hard to tell with the snow, but damn, McCaffrey on IR out at least 6 weeks. So they're saying, if they do make a push for the playoffs, there's a chance he can come back. And then also Jordan Mason placed an IR with an ankle. So it's the Isaac Rendo show, the rookie, which is crazy.
He'll definitely be a hot name to be picked up, Garendo. So that's whatever you have left in Fab, dump him. Everything. That's 100% of your budget. Like, I'm in a league where a kid kept 90% of his Fab, and he's 100% dropping it all. And he's going to be a playoff team already. And now he gets to add, it's like mid burp. Now he gets to add Isaac Garendo, and it's a great add. And then the other guy, he had McCaffrey and he had Mason as his handcuffs. So he got real fucked.
Yeah, I saw a lot of jokes on Twitter. It's like, this point of the fantasy season, you have to be holding high-quality backups, handcuffs for those star running backs. And if you don't have the handcuff to handcuff, you're an idiot. It's like a joke. Yeah, it's like, if you don't, everyone's like, Jordan Mason. And then, nope, it's Isaac Garendo, actually.
Yeah, and this would be an interesting team to also watch to see what kind of moves they make, because they're obviously going to add another back there. I was kind of looking, there's not, I don't know who their number 4 running back is. So if they're to sign a veteran and bring him in, I would pick him up as well, because, obviously Shanahan seems like he usually likes to roll with one running back. Garendo showed a lot of flashes, but that doesn't mean anything. So, with this high-powered offense, I would definitely take a shot on whoever they activate or whoever they pick up.
Yep. Taysom Hill, torn ACL. Oh, man, a week after he had that just monster game. He's been such an important piece for the Saints offense, although that hasn't really translated to a lot of wins. Still, Taysom Hill, been there for a long time. He's been balling out, unfortunately. And he's 35 years old. He ain't a young guy anymore in this league. So this is a really tough blow for him and the Saints.
Yeah. And it was like him and Kamara were the only options. And actually, I shouldn't say that. MVS has been sneaky good recently.
Yeah, he's got 4 touchdowns, I believe, in 4 games, which is crazy.
He's been one of the like craziest streaks of wide receivers. And him and Akina Westbrook with the Titans, who has 8 touchdowns on 18 catches or some shit like that, which is nuts.
Meanwhile, Trey McBride has 0 touchdowns, by the way.
Where has that guy been in Big Dawg's parlay? I mean, you should put him in every week. You're getting plus money, and he scores every single week.
I know, dude. I got to stop taking fucking Christian McCaffrey, apparently, and Justin Jefferson. Just take Westbrook and Keeney. That's crazy. But that's all the news we got. Drock, what do we got for questions?
The boys are back in town. It feels good to have 2 of my co-hosts right next to me on screen, gentlemen. It feels good. I know I was running the show while you were gone, Colin, but it's good to see your face back on here, my man. It feels
Thanks, Drock. I missed that forehead of yours as well.
Hey, you're still allowed to chime in, even though he's back. You're more than welcome to.
No, dude. No, Drock is
when Big Dawg's back, Drock shuts the hell up.
Yeah, so let me just go back to being the bitch and asking the questions. First guy we got for us tonight, main man Austin. Phenomenal questions.
God, I missed that, huh?
First question he's got for us. Who is the best team in Week 13?
Austin, great question. I mean, you got to point to the Bills right away. I mean, in the weather conditions, they still put up what they end up put. I think they've only put up 28. And that's only with a game that was a blizzard. Let me see. Yes. No, I'm sorry. 35 they ended up putting up. So they dominated the 49ers at home. And I know, the Niners obviously missing Bosa and Williams. So there's a little bit of an asterisk. McCaffrey leaves early, but still. The 49ers still got a hell of a lot of good players on that team. And the Bills just punched them in the mouth. And they kind of proved that, they are one of the top teams. Another one I'd like to – actually, I don't want to take the other one because you're probably going to say it. But just thoroughly very impressed with the Bills. They seem like the best team in the AFC right now.
Were you going to say the Eagles?
I was, so I'm glad.
Yes. I mean, come on. The Eagles go on the road at Baltimore. Huge win, 24-19 here. Barkley really took over at the end of the game. I mean, they're just on a hot streak right now. They look like a juggernaut. I don't see how it's not Lions-Eagles in the NFC Championship right now. They just look like they're a cut above the rest of the NFC. with Barkley running the way he is, like A.J. Brown has really not even dominated like he could. Like he's been kind of quiet in the second halves of these games because this run game is just taking over. I don't know. I've been really impressed with the Eagles the last few weeks, and it's really painful to watch. But you got to give them their flowers, dude. They look like a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And anytime you beat Baltimore on the road, it's very impressive.
Oh, for sure. I got a nice Eagles future at plus 650 a while back to come out of the NFC. So I'm feeling very, very confident in
I like
right
that.
now.
I mean, I got the Chiefs-Lions matchup, but the Bills and the Eagles in the AFC NFC are scaring the hell out of me right now.
Dude, even the Steelers too. We got to give them a little bit of respect. I mean, that defense is sick. If they can, I mean, we've seen them win 2 games this year where they won without even putting up an offensive score. It's all field goals. So I don't care how inept their offense can be at times. That defense will keep them in any game.
Next question, all she's got for us. What player had the biggest performance week 13?
I mean, Josh Allen threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, ran a touchdown. That crazy play, in the snow.
For the scoring, no.
I mean, come on, dude. I mean, that was an MVP moment. That was sick.
No, yeah, it was sick. I mean,
you gotta give Josh Allen his credit for that, dude. That was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going just from a fantasy perspective, I mean, Caleb Williams obviously had a crazy game against the Lions. I know, they were trailing from behind, but he really stepped up in that second half. He looked good to me. He's just got to figure it out in the first half, and can't keep waiting till the second half. But he lit it up with the 3 touchdowns. I mean, they came down to the wire at the end where they had, they were driving, got into Detroit territory where they could have scored the touchdown. Obviously, they don't score the touchdown. They somehow botched the chance to even get a field goal, and that comes down to just Eberflus being a terrible coach. And obviously, we didn't talk about it in the news before. He was fired as well. So,
missed that one. But, sorry, guys, a little rusty.
Yeah, it's okay. Caleb really impressed me this week, though. Huge game for him.
Yeah, I want to shout out Russell Wilson, too. Mr. Unlimited, throwing for over 403 touchdowns. I know this Bengals defense is absolutely terrible, and you could tell Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the offense are getting really frustrated where they feel like they have to score every goddamn possession. But you got to give Russell Wilson his flowers. Mike Tomlin with a very ballsy move benching Justin Fields for Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson's played some really good football the last few weeks, so you got to give him his credit.
Mr. Unlimited.
I love that guy.
Next question, Aussie's got for us. Which team had the worst performance in week 13?
I would say, I don't want to say the Niners because they had all the injuries and stuff. And obviously, it seemed like as soon as they did look good and then McCaffrey goes down and they seem kind of deflated. I don't know, though.
A lot of close games. It depends what route you want to go. The Chiefs against the Raiders, you got to take care of business against a team in the top 3. But I think better than they did, but they won the game ultimately. Now, granted, the ref shit at the end, whatever, right call or not. But a little dicey there. But then again, it's a divisional matchup. I mean, the Dolphins just continue to spiral a little bit here with that tough loss to the Packers in Lambeau. 5-7, you could see some frustration bullying over. The Bears, just another pathetic performance at the end of the game, causing Eberflus to get fired, where it's like you sitting there with the Bears at 4-8. I mean, it's hard for to look at the Bears in the games that they've played and not think they should be at least a 500 team right now. So those are just some really...
Yeah, I'm going with the Falcons. I mean, they looked terrible. They've now lost 3 straight. They're 6-6, now tied for first with the Bucs. The good thing is you do have the head-to-head. So really, you're up a game in the division, but still, I mean, to be at home, coming off of a bye, all you can muster together is 13 points. Kirk Cousins with the 4 interceptions, just a terrible game. I mean, your defense kind of limited the Chargers in that offense. Herbert really never got going, but just no help from the offense. And a veteran like Cousins has got to be better because if they want to have any chance come in the playoffs, you'll get if you do get the division at this point, the wild card, it's not going to happen for any team from the NFC South. It's whoever wins that division, and that's it. So you do win that division, you're going to play the number 1 wild card at the 5 seed, probably the Packers or the Vikings, and I think you get smoked. So I don't know, not a lot of good stuff going on here.
You could say the Titans too. They had a shit ton of turnovers in that first half against the Commanders.
They always do. Will Levis is the quarterback.
Oh, ugly. I mean, you get they threw the pick, Commanders score, or no. It was a pick early, then it was a fumble by Tony Pollard, then they score right away, then it was a fumble on the kickoff. It was 21-0 like that, and then it was 28-0 like that, and then I was like, all right, well, this one's over.
Wait, was that Laviska Shenault?
No, that was in he's on the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks. Yes, Laviska Shenault for Seattle fumbled a couple, dude. I was like, oh my goodness, this game is getting dicey.
Yeah, he's trying to fuck up the Jets pick next year. That jerk off.
It's all right. Aaron Rodgers didn't let you guys down.
Yeah, big cat. We'll get into that later.
Next question, Aussie's got for us: who's the biggest surprise in fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because like you talked about Russ already. That was a pretty big surprise, but at the end of the day, like, you know, he's supposed to be doing that. You know, like the Bengals are a terrible defense. Like you knew that was a plus matchup. It's just with how bad the Steelers have looked at times. You know, that's why it was a little bit of a surprise for me. Were there any players that really stuck out to you?
Who was it? Was it McConkey? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yeah. Lad McConkey. Yeah, McConkey on the Chargers. Yeah, he went off.
Yeah, he went off. He had like 100 receiving. I only know that because he was on my bench. So.
Oh, there you go. Good start, Davey. Yeah, McConkey ended up with. I know he didn't get in the end zone. Let's see though. Let me pull him up real quick. He got injured too, but he was 9 for 117. So that's a very good game for him. I mean, if you want to go with like big surprises, I mean, obviously like Westbrook-Akine, I mean, he just keeps fucking scoring, dude. Yeah. Like he was 3 for 61 and 2, and over the and it helps when he gets the touchdowns. But the thing is, over the past 5 weeks or over the past 6 weeks, 5 out of the 6, he's been over double digits and half-point scoring. So like, you know, he's a viable flex at this point. Other guy. I mean, Rico Dowdle. Hate to bring it up against your Giants, but he's a guy who's, you know, looking better and better. I know it was a positive matchup, but going forward, I mean, he's completely taken over that backfield and stuff. And at least at this point, Cooper Rush is competent enough to keep the Cowboys offense like moving the ball. So he's a guy I kind of was impressed with this week. And, you know, against the Bengals next week, that's a great matchup for him again.
Yeah, I guess my biggest surprise was on Thanksgiving and Keenan Allen, who's been, I mean, he had a pretty solid week last week, but has kind of been a shell of himself in this Bears offense all year. I mean, scoring 2 touchdowns and having 73 yards against Detroit is, you know, pretty awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question Aussie has for us. Who should you trade for in fantasy right now? You really can't.
Past the trade deadline in every league.
So let's go.
You know.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, you know what? I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, I think most of my leagues are. I mean, maybe in some dynasty leagues, but I think at this point you're probably past it. But yeah, I mean, if you are in dynasty leagues, I mean, you know, it's always just the same thing where if you're not going to be in the playoffs, you know, trade anything of value away that's a veteran to teams that are competing this year for picks.
Yeah, I mean, his next question is also fantasy related, so you know, I guess you could probably ask, like, who could you potentially like pick up on waivers that could be on waivers right now?
Was that the question?
No, I'm asking you guys that question.
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about it. I mean, Isaac Guerrero go pick up. I mean, if the Niners are obviously tomorrow will be Tuesday, so you'll have a day before waivers run and fab and all that stuff. So wait and see whoever they elevate or bring in to be that second running back behind Guerrero, because I'm not sold that Guerrero is just going to automatically be the guy. And maybe even Juszczyk too. I think he'll probably get more work. I mean, you even saw last night they were trying to use him at the goal line as well. So I would take a stab at Juszczyk. Raiders running back looked very good, Sean McCormick. I was going to pick him in a league too, and I opted out not to because he was way more efficient than Abdullah 2 weeks ago. But he looked very good against the Chiefs. Zamir White, Alexander Mattison, and Amir Abdullah all have looked super inefficient all year. But as soon as Sean McCormick went in, he seemed to have a lot more juice than any of those running backs have had. He's a rookie, so I would go pick him up. I don't think he's going to be a heavily looked at guy, so I think he's definitely worth a guy that I would throw some fab on.
No other questions, but Reagan, I have a question specifically for you.
Yeah.
Did you think that the Jets were going to win after the first quarter? I did. I was ready to type in the group chat like, oh my gosh, the 1 week that I don't bet on the Jets. Thank God I didn't send that because my gosh. Bro.
Yeah, I definitely. The good thing is I was watching the red zone the whole time because I'm like, I just don't give a shit. I want the Jets to lose. I did think we were going to win. I even picked them this week because I was like, you know what? that would be so Jets to go out and win when now that the season's over and everyone's switched to tank, lose, then they start winning, and it's just like, but also the fact that Seattle's coming cross country. But they gave us every opportunity to win that game. So it just comes down to the same old Jets. Rodgers sucks.
I stopped picking the Jets, man. I'm not doing it the rest of the year. I think. Dude,
they've been favorited in 9 out of 12 games. Like, that's insane. We're 3-9, and we've been the favorites 9 times this year.
I know. It's nuts, man. It's unprecedented. It's really upsetting, man. I can't believe you're wearing that hat, but
I still support the team.
To you and yours. All right, let's start breaking down these games, huh? What do you say?
I say let's do it.
We'll start with the Bears at the Lions. 23-20 win for the Bears. In a losing effort, Caleb Williams continues to look good, rebounding after some struggles earlier in the season. Threw for 256 and 3 tutties. DJ Moore, hell of a game, 97 and a tutty. Mentioned Keenan Allen, 73 and 2 tutties. For the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, pretty efficient, 221, a clean game with 2 touchdowns. Montgomery, 21 for 88. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 for 87. Makes you wonder, why didn't Jahmyr Gibbs get the ball a little bit more? Who knows? And now Jahmyr Gibbs is posting yes, he did have a terrible fumble. And now Jahmyr Gibbs is posting TikToks showing the signals for the Lions, but neither here nor there. Receiving wise, Amon-Ra had 73, pretty spread out. Besides that, Montgomery 3 for 26, out receiving Gibbs here. And I actually saw, you look at their receiving stats, because you think like on third downs, Jahmyr Gibbs is the back that comes into these games. But the receiving splits for both Montgomery and Gibbs are very similar. Like, I was like, wow, I didn't know it was that close. So both backs going to be viable in the receiving game here. But Detroit sitting pretty at 11-1 now. Bears 4-8. Your thoughts here, Reagan?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I was impressed with Caleb. I mean, I was lucky enough to pick him up in one league this week and stream him. I kind of thought the Lions would be behind in this game. Or I'm sorry, I kind of thought the Bears would be behind in this game. The defense did really pick it up in the second half. They shut down the Lions completely for the most part, obviously down 16-0 to start it, and then held them to 7 points in the second half. So I was impressed with that. Offensively, I mean, Keenan Allen continues to look great. So it's great to see him get more involved. You'd like to see Odunze get more involved at this point.
Odunze pretty absent here, man. 2 catches for 25 yards. He did have 6 targets, though, but a lot of those balls were downfield, in which he didn't really have a chance.
Yeah, and DJ Moore, obviously, another big game. So, and then on the Lions side of things, I mean, the offense, this is what I was talking about last week on the podcast when we were like, hey, like, is there any team you could see beating the Lions in their first-round matchup? And I was like, yeah, if they run into the Packers or the Vikings, these division games are tough. A lot of teams aren't used to the Lions' physicality, but the teams that are their division games. They know how to play them, and if they get stuck playing the Packers or the Vikings in the first round or the second round, whatever it may be, depending on, if the Eagles get that 1 seed or not, I think there's a very good chance they can lose because those teams can run the ball and those teams can match the physicality that the Lions want to bring offensively. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they end up, disappointing come playoff time.
Yeah, and this Lions defense does have a ton of injuries. It's impressive that they keep winning to the extent that they do. And usually the Lions, such a good red zone team, but the Bears really contained them in the red zone here. They kicked 3 field goals in the first half. You don't see that very often for the Lions.
Not at all.
Going to need to clean that up for sure. But let's move on to my New York Giants. Of course, losing on Thanksgiving. It's just what I love as a Giants fan is watching my team lose on Thanksgiving. Giants dropped to 2-10. The Cowboys 5-7. Just, kicking themselves down the draft board a little bit. Love to see it. Cooper Rush threw for 195, a touchdown, no picks. Rico Dowdle 22 for $112 and a touchdown. This Giants run defense is terrible. And now, didn't even mention this, Dexter Lawrence out for the season with a dislocated elbow. So I recommend starting every running back you have against the New York Football Giants in fantasy the rest of the year. And it could be something to think about when you're placing some wagers. Receiving-wise,
Kamara in the Big Dawg parlay next week.
I actually already thought of that today. Yeah, Kamara's going to be in the Big Dawg parlay.
He's
for
going
sure.
to be like minus 300. No,
whatever, Taysom, dude. I got to see the ball go through the hoop. I haven't.
I'm just saying he's going to be like a fat line to score because no Taysom Hill either. So there's not even that threat to take away the rushing touchdowns either.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. He's definitely going to score. CeeDee Lamb left us. He had 2 for 39. Seemed to be banged up in his shoulder. It was undisclosed, but clearly something going on with CeeDee Lamb there. It was Turpin 4 for 53. The leading receiver for Dallas. For the Giants, Drew Lock, 178 in the pick. He did have 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. Tyrone Tracy punched one in. Neighbors, 8 for 69. Theo Johnson, 5 for 54, was looking really good, but he's also out for the season. Just beautiful for my New York Giants. A young rookie showing some promise, and he's done. So, honestly, for the Giants here, the wheels are falling off. It's not even watchable anymore, the product here. For the Cowboys, I mean, really nothing to write home about. CeeDee Lamb got a little beat up. You won a meaningless game. Congrats. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm sure you're wishing CeeDee didn't get banged up. I mean, imagine if he got like one more catch, what that could have done for you in certain fantasy leagues.
Dude, you beat me by less than a point 2 weeks in a row. You just can't do it.
Yeah, that's crazy. So for those of you that don't know, which, probably not a lot of you, I played Colin in 2 different dynasty leagues the past 2 weeks, and I beat him by less than a point in both leagues.
And they're both for a first round bye in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I just big bro him in fantasy football all the time. But in fairness, you could say if CeeDee didn't get hurt, but I could say the same thing about McCaffrey. So it evens out. And also, shame on me for starting Kittle in the snow, but that kind of killed him too, because I was like, oh, there's no doubt I don't win this matchup, and then I almost lost with having Kittle and McCaffrey needing like 10 points.
George Kittle though, it's hard to bench George Kittle. Yeah, I don't even know what your other option was, but it's really difficult to justify it because you don't want to look back and be like, how did I bench George Kittle?
Yeah.
He's just a stud.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, let's move on to the night game on Thanksgiving. The Packers in Lambeau, 30-17 over the Dolphins. This was a very easy pick for me. It's Green Bay in November against the Miami Dolphins, historically, who can't play well in the cold. And I saw on Thanksgiving, I think it was the Fox crew. I believe it was Terry Bradshaw. When they're going over their picks for the game, he's like, Tua doesn't care about the cold. As soon as he said that, Fox shows like the graphic of Tua's record in under 50-degree weather. And it's like 1-14. And I'm like, Terry Bradshaw, do you even do your research? Like, Fox put it up right behind you, his record below 50 degrees. And you're like, Tua doesn't care about the cold.
I think I know it. I'm pretty sure the only time Tua actually is won under 50 degrees. I think that was the one we were at on Black
Friday game. That might have legitimately, that was definitely under 50. So yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's probably the game that Tua won was last year. But then again, it's like, is that even an impressive win? It was against Tim Boyle-led Jets. So
it's not even an impressive win. So like when you put that in perspective, the Dolphins don't really win when it's cold weather. So this seemed like a slam dunk pick for me, and it was. Jordan Love, 274, 2 touchdowns. Jacobs in the cold. I thought he'd have a much stronger game. Only had 43 yards on 19 carries. Did punch one in. Receiving wise, Tucker Kraft, 6 for 78. Jacobs had 4 for 74 through the air.
I know. That's what I was going to say. He still went over 100 scrimmage yards.
Yes. Yeah. Some of us had 60 rushing yards, though. Christian Watson, 2 for 67. And Jaden Reed, only 3 catches, but 2 touchdowns here. The touchdown machine for the Dolphins. The run game was non-existent in the cold here for both Mostert and Achane. Achane averaged 2 yards per carry. Mostert, not much better, a little bit over 3. Tua did throw for 365 and 2 touchdowns, so maybe Terry was onto something, but it wasn't enough to get a win here. Jonnu Smith over 100 again, dude. He looks really fucking good recently. Tyreek Hill scores. Achane did score through the air with 56. But yeah, this Dolphins team, their season just continues to go downhill. And for an offense that's been so good for fantasy in recent memory, at least Tua's back and Achane's being productive, but still the fall off of Tyreek Hill is really bothering me.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was a good game. He still had 20 fantasy points. I mean, he had the 83 yards.
Yes, the touchdown was a little fluky, but
hey, we'll take it. At the end of the day, it's a good week. It's something to build off of. So I do think he's starting to get back, hopefully, to his ways. We'll see. We'll see down the stretch, but definitely encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah,
J-Lo, go ahead, bud.
You mean it? No, I mean, the Packers they're very impressive to me. I mean, they're definitely going to be a team that you do not want to face in the first round. Like, they're going to get a good matchup. I mean, right now it's looking like they'll be the 6th seed, but they still play the Vikings and the Lions. So some tough division games left. I don't know. I wouldn't mind if I'm Atlanta or if I'm, Philly or if I'm, right now Seattle, I wouldn't be excited to play Green Bay in the first round at all.
Not at all.
Their defense looks good, and I feel like their offense really hasn't even fully scratched their potential yet. So Green Bay is a team that I would not be thrilled about because they're better than last year. And last year they obviously, kicked the shit out of Dallas in Dallas, and then they were going toe to toe with the Niners in San Fran. So
yeah, 9-3 and being in third in your division is also wild. The NFC North is nuts.
They're gonna go like 11-6 or like maybe even 12-5 and be like the 6th seed. That's the crazy part.
That they will be a popular pick in the first round of the playoffs for sure. All right, the Chiefs take care of business. 19-7 over the Raiders. They are 11-1. The Raiders dropped to 2-10. In a losing effort, though, Aiden O'Connell threw for 340 and 2 touchdowns against a really, really good defense. So
he looked good.
He ain't the future, but good for him. That's a good game. And you're right, Sincere McCormick, 12 for 64 with a long of 17.
What did I call him before? Did I call him Sean?
I don't know. You definitely didn't call him Sincere, though. That's for sure.
What the fuck did I don't know what I called him, but yeah, I think I called him Sean McCormick. Yeah. Sincere McCormick. My sincerest apologies.
You corny motherfucker.
No, but I'm telling you, pick him up. He's by far looked the most efficient at any back in that back.
I mean, we know what Amir Abdullah is. We know what Alexander Madison is. At least this kid, he's a young kid who's got some juice,
Yeah,
I highly
he's
recommend
averaging 5.7 yards a carry. I mean, granted, let me just put it into perspective. Granted, it's only 17 carries, but he's averaging 5.7. Guess what the other running? Guess what? What do you think Amir Abdullah is? Actually, he's the best out of the other ones. But what do you think he is?
3.2.
He's actually 4.3, but that's on also limited work. What do you think Alexander Madison is?
2.9.
3.3, so slightly better than you thought. And what do you think Zamir White is? The worst out of all of them?
2.6.
2.8. But that just tells you, and those are older guys. I would say, the Raiders in a lost season, you might as well give the youngster a chance. So definitely could go and, target this guy. Because this 100%. Could be, I'm telling you now, this could be a league winner.
Speaking of young guys, Brock Bowers, 10 for 140 and a touchdown. I know we had this debate before my hiatus, Reagan. Are you ready to admit that Brock Bowers is the dynasty tight end 1?
No. I would say he's top 2. I still think it's Trey McBride. But, it's very close. They're
the top 2. There's really no debate. Those are the top 2.
Obviously Bowers is doing this and it's, without a quarterback. So that definitely gives you confidence. It's just, the deciding factor for me is Kyler Murray. Because I expect the touchdowns are, obviously Bowers has 4 to McBride's 0. Well, McBride does have a rushing one and he recovered one. So he does technically have 2. But, in Bowers has played one more game, but he has 84 catches to 73 and 884 to 781. So, the numbers are pretty identical. If McBride is to play one more game, he's probably a couple catches less and a couple yards less. But to me, it's 1A, 1B. So I wouldn't say for certain either guy's the best, but I would say for certain these are the top 2 guys.
But you would have said before the season, Laporta was probably 1, and he's after the best rookie tight end season we've seen.
No, I've been pretty consistent on McBride being 1 for me, but I would have said Laporta was, the 1A, 1B. But I've been very consistent on the fact that I thought McBride was, my number 1 dynasty tight end. And, he was out of all the tight ends, he was the only one I was touching at that ADP. I stayed away from Kelsey, I stayed away from Andrews, and I stayed away from Laporta. Where McBride, I have a lot of stock in him. I have him essentially in every underdog lineup because I was super bought in. That's the guy I predicted at the beginning of the season and said was a dark horse to lead the league in catches. And, right now he's only 11 catches back he's so Bowers is leading with 84. McBride's at 73. So he's 11 catches back in the lead. But if he doesn't miss that game, he's really in the thick of things. So that kind of sucks that, he may end up being short a couple catches. And it's just like, damn, if he had that one more game that he didn't miss with the concussions, because that was a plus 6,000 shout.
Yeah. That's a great call out of you. For the Chiefs, Mahomes throws for 306 and a touchdown here. The return of Isaiah Pacheco, 7 for 44, but there was a long of 34 in there. You take that out, 6 for 10 yards. Not very efficient, and Kareem Hunt, 7 for 15. So this Raiders run defense really stood up to the test here for the Chiefs. D-Hop, 4 for 90. He's looked good in a Chiefs uniform. Kelsey, 7 for 68. Justin Watson scored touchdown for the Chiefs. But hey, the champs survive. That's all you need to do at this time of the year against a divisional opponent, sitting at 11-1. Looking pretty good. Let's get to that Sunday slate, huh?
I mean, I will say, like, there were people living in, like, you could still play Kareem Hunt. It's apparent. I mean, Pacheco's just better than him. So
no, he's on the bench now. You cannot start Kareem Hunt in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, you could hold on to him just because you don't know, like I would still hold on to him because you can see, like, if Pacheco's to go down with a different injury again, it's a high value job where he'll get all the touches, but outside of that, I mean, he's not startable. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't know. I mean, I think he showed a lot. Like, I think it's pretty evident that Pacheco is way better than him.
Certainly. All right, the Chargers take care of the Falcons 17-13. They improved to 8-4. Just Jim Harbaugh, man. All he does is win. The Falcons dropped to 6-6. Herbert, not his flashiest game on the stat sheet. Threw for $147, no touchdowns, no picks on 16 completions. The run game really non-existent as well. Gus Edwards, 6 for 32. Vidal, 4 for 20. Herbert, 5 carries for 1. So they really did not get the ball moving on the ground here. The entire offense was essentially Ladd McConkey, 9 for $117. The next leading receiver was Quentin Johnston, 2 for 12. And he can't even hold on to half the balls thrown to him. So that's pretty difficult. But, I mean, that Chargers defense is legit, dude. Legit. Derwin James played out of his mind in this one. Able to keep the Chargers, I mean, in front to hold on to the lead against this Falcons team. Kirk threw for 4 interceptions, as you mentioned earlier, Reagan. Bijan continues his hot streak, running for over 100 and a touchdown. He's also involved as a receiver, 6 for 33. London, 9 for 66. Ray McLeod, 4 for 95. Wasn't enough, though. When you turn the ball over 4 times, like Kirk Cousins does, you're not going to win games that way, especially when the Chargers had 1 turnover. It was a Hassan Haskins fumble. So,
yeah, bad picks. A couple takes away from this. I mean, right away for you fantasy players, Vidal, another guy I would, look at. Dobbins, obviously, we another guy we didn't talk about in the news before, but he was put on the IR, so he's going to be out. Maybe if you're lucky, you'd have him back for the championship. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't touch the field till maybe week 18. If maybe they'll even hold him out to the playoffs to have him, fully ready to go. So I think Vidal is a very interesting name. I mean, Gus Edwards as well. I'm sure he's out there on a lot of your different waivers. So I would go look at those guys because, with all the injuries going on, you need guys. But Vidal's the younger guy, the rookie, had a lot of juice out of Troy. So I definitely find him to be an interesting option. McConkey did leave, so that's another one interesting to me. But I think at this point, like, you could take the shot on Disley as the tight end. But outside of that, I mean, there's not many pass-catching options I think you can play. I mean, that's back-to-back weeks of bad Quentin Johnston play. So, him obviously having some big touchdowns early on, and Sean May, maybe he's taking that second-year jump. Seems like that's kind of going away. And, Atlanta, man, like Bijan, give him his flowers. And, yeah, Drake London's, he's a beast. He's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Quentin Johnston real quick, I'm waving my white flag on Quentin Johnston as like a long-term dynasty piece for me. He got saved earlier in the season where he had some games just because he scored touchdowns, but he's so in his head with the drops, and he's just not good enough of a route runner. Like, you were supposed to be a big play threat, but he's just not going to be consistent enough, I think. And I think we've seen enough of him where I know, like, he's not going to be a guy where, yeah, I could start him at flex consistently week in and week out and be happy about it in fantasy. And I drafted him because I paired him with Justin Herbert, and it's like, I have the wrong guy. Ladd McConkey's the guy to have.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ladd's by far the guy to have there. I mean, he's slid right into that Keenan Allen role.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, you see Keenan Allen said after the season he's either re-signing with the Bears or going back to the Chargers, or he ain't playing.
No, I didn't. I feel like that's crazy to say.
He did say, yeah, dude, he said that like this past weekend or like last week, like in the middle of the season. I'm like, huh, that's a little interesting. He's letting everyone know. And then actually they came up like, so you're not going to the Giants? He's like, no, I'm not going to the Giants. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck, man? All we do is catch stray bullets. It's all we do.
All right. I would hope he stays with the Bears, but I guess as a Dunze, a dynasty owner, you're probably hoping he leaves.
Yeah, I don't think the Bears are going to extend Keenan Allen. I think they'll be cool with DJ Moore and Romo Dunze.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you take him at 9 over a lineman, so I think they'll let him walk.
Yeah. The Steelers hang 44 on this vaunted Bengals defense. 44-38 here. Bengals dropped to 4-8. Their playoff hopes are done. All those futures they had are done. Joe Burrow MVP, although he's played out of his mind, done because they can't play defense. Steelers at 9-3 though. Man, they look like a threat in the AFC, huh? We'll just see if they can get over the hump this year in the playoffs, or if Mike Tomlin just has another great regular season and falls up short. Russell Wilson, mentioned earlier, threw for 414 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, only sacked twice, which is a good stat for Russell Wilson. You see that. When Russell Wilson struggles, he holds on the ball way too long and takes a ton of sacks, too many negative plays. That's a huge for the Steelers, and that means Broderick Jones is holding up really well at tackle for him. Najee, 16 for 75 and a touchdown. Also added 54 through the air. A big game for Najee Harris. George Pickens, 3 for 74 and a touchdown. He's looked really good with Russell Wilson. As soon as Russell Wilson got in the lineup, they're connecting downfield a lot. Had a long of 36 in this one. And then really spread around. Jalen Warren had 55. The Muth had 68 for a touchdown. Even Calvin Austin got in the end zone. Even the corpse of Cordell Patterson had 37 yards. The corpse of Van Jefferson had 43 yards. I mean, they just feasted on this Bengals defense, which I saw a stat that like 10 of their last 11 draft picks have been defensive players. And it's crazy that their defense is this bad. Cincinnati's. I can't believe it.
It's terrible. And I do want to give Najee his flowers. I mean, I know you talked about how good of a game he's had, but he's having a great game. I mean, he seems primed to have his 4th straight 1,000-yard rushing season. I mean, actually, he's really, like, if you look at the numbers, he's kind of having one of the better seasons of his career right now, especially as a pass catcher. So, he's a guy that's going to be close to 1,500 all-purpose yards by the end of the season. So great to see that, and the rushing, it's, he's 11th right now. So not quite leading the league in rushing, but another good year from Najee.
Very quietly. It's a sneaky good year.
But I talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to go too much crazy with it, but take the Steelers serious, man. I mean, they right now, outside of the Bills, I mean, they might be the second best team. And I like, obviously the Chiefs are still better, but the way they've been playing the Steelers, they might be the second or third best team in the AFC right now. And they definitely don't get viewed that way. But that defense is so good. And if the offense can even play close to this level or be semi-competent, I mean, I think they're a team that could definitely be a dark horse to win the Super Bowl.
And hey, with Baltimore dropping another down to 8-5, Steelers at 9-3 got a 1.5 game lead. That is huge.
With the head-to-head too.
With the head-to-head, that is huge for them. They can get a home playoff game and not have to go on the road, especially with how they struggle.
Or multiple home playoff games. I mean,
they'll
probably get you would think they would, if they win the division, they're probably going to get the 3 seed. I mean, they still could catch Buffalo. I mean, they're only a game back. I believe let me check on this. I'm almost positive they do play Buffalo. Oh, actually, maybe not. They don't. I thought they played Buffalo. No, they don't. But they still get to play the Chiefs. So that's going to be a hell of a game on Christmas too. So I'm excited for that one.
That's a good one.
They do got a tough schedule coming up still. I mean, you get the Browns in a home game. Browns plus 6.5. So the Browns will probably win that just because it's, division game. And funny enough, they just lost to the Browns, but then they got the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. So they got a tough schedule down the stretch.
Oh, jeez, man. That's a brutal schedule. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't care. They're just, I'm not done doubting them. I'm done doubting them.
And for the Bengals here, I mean, they're great for fantasy football, that's for sure. Burrow threw for 309, 3 touchdowns a pick. Chase Brown's been phenomenal since he's had the full-time gig, ran for 70 and a touchdown here. Also added 30 receiving. Jamar Chase continues his dominant stretch this season. 86 and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 69, nice, and a touchdown. But there's really nothing to write home about the Bengals. Their season's over. They're fun for fantasy football. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts. They have some serious problems to address in the offseason with that defense. And is Zach Taylor on the hot seat? That's a name that we're not talking about that I think
100%
certainly could be on that Black Monday could be fired.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely at this point. I mean, Burrow's been healthy for the most part this year, and the offense has looked great, but the defense is just terrible. I mean, they should have been a playoff team this year, or at least they shouldn't be at this point in the season. I mean, you look at all the other teams that are underperforming, like the Jets and Bears have already moved on from their coaches, and the Bengals are that same tier where they were supposed to be a playoff team, as one of the Super Bowl favorites, and they're not even going to come close to even. Like they're going to be out of the graphic, and once you're out of the graphic, the season's over. Like they're going to be out of in the hunt graphic soon. So I don't know. I agree with you. Zach Taylor's a name that should be talked about more of getting fired.
And Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, was getting head coaching looks 2 years ago when that defense was playing really well, when the Bengals were making deep runs in the AFC. That has since gone away, I'd say. Maybe they shouldn't have just let Jesse Bates just leave for nothing, right? I don't know. It kind of seems a little crazy to me after the season he had last year and this year. I don't know. Maybe you should have kept that guy around. That's what I think.
Yeah.
The Vikings take care of business 23-22 over the Cardinals. Took some fourth quarter heroics here. They improved to 10-2. The Cardinals 6-6, still in the thick of things in the NFC West with the 49ers struggling. The Seahawks did get a win though, so not good for Arizona, but still in the race for a wild card. For the Vikings, man, Darnold 235, 2 touchdowns, looked pretty good here. The run game was pretty non-existent. Aaron Jones had his 3rd fumble in 3 games. Not good. Well, he fumbled twice, lost one of them. 3rd lost fumble in the last 3 games. Not ideal. Jefferson started off really quiet here, but exploded in the second half, 7 for 99. Addison, 4 for 54. Aaron Jones punch one in. Of course, Johnny Munt punch one in. Because that's who everyone has in their touchdown score parlays. For the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 260, a touchdown, 2 picks here. That one he had was just really, really disgusting. You know what I'm talking about? When he was running around and just floated it up to the safety, the corner.
Yeah.
That was really ugly.
Yeah.
That was a boneheaded play out of Kyler. And, you can make an argument they win the game without that play. James Conner, fresh off his contract extension, 17 for 68. Trey McBride, 12 for 96. Your boy, Reagan. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 for 60 and a touchdown. Good game for Marv, but let's be honest. He hasn't lived up to the very lofty expectations he had coming into the season.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's what happens when you get drafted at that early in the draft. And I think it's also, with Neighbors doing the production he's had, and I guess Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey. I mean, there's just some other rookies that have really been outperforming him. I mean, he still, has 606 yards, and he still does have the 7 touchdowns. You just like to see more catches. I mean, he's not going to, honestly, at the end of the year, I mean, it's not going to be what you thought and where you drafted him for fantasy, but I still think it's a successful rookie year. Like, the talent's there. I think he's just got to mature more. And I think we got to remember, not every receiver is just going to be an alpha number one, year one.
Yeah, certainly. But this is why I stayed away from him, because that's a good rookie year. He's having a good rookie year. That's why I stayed away from him at his ADP, getting picked between 10 and 15. I'm like, I know he's getting that generational tag, but it's just extremely rare for a rookie wide receiver to put up the numbers that, where you're drafting him at, right? If you're taking a guy 10th overall, you're expecting 12, 13, 1,400 yards from a receiver. And that's just how it is. That's your alpha. That's the dog of your team. And
right now, I think Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, and Neighbors are probably better than him. I mean, they're having better years. I don't know, in Dynasty, I still lean Marv, but because, if you're going off of 1 year, I guess McConkey technically has been the best right now. His numbers are the best. I know, Neighbors obviously has missed a little bit of time. Brian Thomas obviously hasn't missed time, but he's been banged up. But yeah, those guys are putting up some big numbers. So, and obviously Bowers has been by far the best out of all of them, but he's a tight end. So, but
let's move on.
I didn't realize how good McConkey's been.
Where is he?
Dude, he's 58 catches, but for 815 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's leading all the rookie wide receivers in yards. But granted, he's up on Neighbors by 65, but he's played 2 more games. And also, Neighbors just has way more targets. Holy shit, Neighbors is 116 targets to McConkey's 81.
I think I said before the season I wouldn't be shocked if Neighbors had 150 targets. And he might still be on pace for that despite missing 2 games.
Well, the good thing is also, it was a little worrisome with DeVito, but then with Drew Lock, he was ultra targeting him. So, yeah, I would think, if it stays with Drew Lock, which I don't know if the Giants have come out and said either way, but
they did not.
Hope for Malik Neighbors owners. I would hope for, you're definitely rooting for Drew Lock. Honestly, for any, I guess Tyrone Tracy too. You'd be playing maybe Wandell or Slayton in deeper leagues. But if you're planning on playing anyone in that Giants offense, you want Drew Lock. He's clearly better than DeVito, and can at least put them in a position to move the ball.
I agree, 100%. The Colts take care of the Patriots. Another close one, 25-24. Colts now 6-7, and hey, they have a really soft schedule down the stretch here, so they still have a chance to sneak into the AFC wildcard picture. The Pats dropped to 3-10. Who cares, though? Drake May looks like a stud. For the Colts, Anthony Richardson, since his return from being benched, has played pretty well. I mean, you got to look outside the box score, I think, here. He was 12 for 24, 50% completion percentage, more so the same. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Picks aren't ideal. He did make some crazy throws here and a couple of missed opportunities where it could have been a much bigger game. But he did score again on the ground, had 48 rushing yards as well. He's just, it's tough to tackle this dude. And when you got Jonathan Taylor next to him, I mean, it's crazy. Taylor had 96 yards here. That rushing duo, is it safe to say third best in the league? Quarterback, running back, rushing duo behind Hurts and Barkley, Lamar, and Henry, right? That's got to be the top 3. Am I missing anybody?
I mean, I guess at this point, Kyler's not really what he was. I mean, I would definitely put I would put Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson over that too.
You think Jaden Daniels obviously better than Richardson, but Brian Robinson has been.
He's been. I mean, dude, I got JT in a lot of leagues, but Brian Robinson's been.
He has been a dog.
He's been a dog.
Year. He's been a
dog. Brian Robinson. I mean, he's obviously missed a couple games, but you know, he's on 138 carries. He has 6'4". I mean, he's averaging 4.6. I don't know, because you know Taylor has more yards, but he's played. Actually, Taylor has more yards in the same amount of games, but he's had way more opportunities. So you know he's averaging more. He has 140 more yards, but on 40 more attempts in the same amount of games. But Brian Robinson's 4.6 a carry to the Taylor's 4.3. I would say you can make a case for that duo. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, yeah, I'd say them. You know, I guess sneaky one, Caleb and Swift. But no, it's probably Robbins, or it's either either of those two are probably the third best.
Certainly. And for the receiving game for the Colts, again, another Anthony Richardson game. Nothing really to write home about. Pittman 5 for 42. Pierce scored. JT had a receiving touchdown. So it's really about it for the Colts. For the Pats, Drake May, who's looked really good. I think he's going to turn this Patriots franchise around. Maybe not next year, but the year after. Threw for 238, a touchdown, a pick. And Drake May, 559 on the ground. Been very sneaky with his legs. You know, you didn't hear a lot about it in the draft process. Just kind of like, oh, yeah, he's an underrated athlete, this and that. But he is on pace currently to break Michael Vick's record for most yards per carry for a quarterback. And not as a rookie in NFL history. That didn't know that.
Right.
No, it's right. They said it during the broadcast, dude. And that was before he had his 41-yard run. So he's averaging, he had 12 yards per carry, almost, rounding up in this past game. So that number just went up. You can look it up if you want, Reagan, but it's true. Hunter Henry, 7 for 75. Hooper, 42 and a touchdown. The tight ends dominated the receiving game for the Pats, but they fall just short.
Yeah, he's averaging 9.1 a carry.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
345 rushing yards. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of the craziest draft classes I've ever seen for quarterbacks, because all four look legit. There's not one that you'd say even it looks close to a bust, or, you know, I mean, I would say they're all well on schedule and above expectations. I mean, maybe you could say Caleb's slightly below just because he had the highest expectations, but I think all of them look like legit NFL starters where, you know, I think all four teams are leaving like they have the best quarterback out of all of the options.
Yeah, dude. Then, legitimately, like Jaden Daniels was in the MVP running earlier in the season. Caleb Williams has really turned it around. He's looking really good. And let's be honest, they got rid of Shane Waldron, and what happened? Like JSM was right. Shane Waldron should not be controlling any more offenses in the NFL. That's a fact. Bo Nix has been a stud for Denver, and we haven't even seen Penix or McCarthy. The numbers say, the math says at least one of those two is going to suck. I mean, there's just no way all six quarterbacks hit, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, no, and poor Spencer Rattler, man.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that guy. He's not in that tier. He's just not. All right, let's move on. Let's get your Jets game over with, buddy. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It seems like every time we talk, it's just, damn, dude, your Jets lost again. 26-21 here. Seahawks 7-5 now control the NFC West. Jets 3-9. Jeez, seems like a top 10 draft pick yet again. Geno threw for 206, a touchdown. Walker 149 on the ground, nothing too impressive. Of course, Charbonnet snaked the touchdown from him. JSN continues his dominant stretch, 4 for 74. His breakout is in full bloom now, Reagan. Your thoughts on JSN?
I was saying last podcast, like, I don't even know if it's a 1A, 1B. Like, I think he's become the number one for the Seahawks, where DK is the number 2. I think at this point, all the concerns with Lockett are gone. Like, JSN
finally
having that year 2 breakout of kind of what we thought he would be in year 1. But that's also like why I'm like, don't worry about Marv, because people were worried about JSN before the year. Like, oh, like, should I be like
Shane
this guy's
Waldron
bust?
Effect?
And now look at him. So that's my whole point, is don't give up on these wide receivers, because they're not a superstar in year 1, like, people are just, so bought into like, oh, well, if they're not a superstar in year 1, it's not going to work out. Look at JSN. He's looking like he might be, outside of Puka, the second best wide receiver in this class.
I'd say certainly he is. And I'm watching him play, and I'm like, damn, I loved JSN going into the draft. Obviously didn't play really at all his last year in college, and that's kind of why he slid. But when we watched him at Ohio State his sophomore year, he was disgusting. And even Garrett Wilson has said that he thought Jackson Smith-Njigba was the best receiver he played with at Ohio State. That's over Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chris Olave, So it's like, this guy's a stud. And he was slow, and I'm just happy that it's no more Tyler Lockett getting those damn catches, because all he does is catch the ball and fall to the ground, does nothing after the catch, where JSN is a legitimate threat. And I hate that he had 4 for 74, but only had 4 goddamn targets. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think he's getting closer into that conversation with Puka. I mean, the dude's got 70 catches this year for over 800 yards already. So, at this rate, he should go for over 1,000 with 100 catches this year. So it's going to end up being a great year 2 for JSN, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, certainly. His dynasty value has skyrocketed. DK didn't have a bad game himself, 4 for 66. However, that was on 9 targets. Let's get JSN 9 targets. For your Jets, Rodgers, 185, 2 touchdowns, a pick, continues to struggle. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like he's playing the same way he did in Green Bay, where it's a lot of anticipatory throws. But even with Devontae Adams, it seems like they're not on the same page a lot. You know what I mean? And he's played with Devontae Adams for so much, but I feel like him, Garrett Wilson, Devontae, the last several weeks just aren't fully clicking on all cylinders. And I mean, I didn't even see this before I said that, but Devontae had 5 catches on 12 targets. Garrett Wilson had 5 on 10 targets. I mean, that's proof for you right there.
Yeah, no, I don't know, man. It's not ideal. It's great. It's great to see Adams and you having a good game. But at the end of the day, he is not our future. He is not in our future plans, where, Breece Hall is still young and great, and Garrett Wilson is still young and great. And we just need to find ways to get those guys involved and utilize them, because, we're never going to win these games if it doesn't work out. Because like you said, I mean, Garrett Wilson's 5 for 41 on 10 targets. So you got to find ways to convert those catches. And, at this point, Breece Hall, 12 for 60, but, he's not, and, he didn't even have a catch. And that was one of his best parts last year and into this year, but he's really not having a good year. Taking a major step back.
The whole team, trash.
Oh my God.
Get back to your rebuild. The Jets suck.
We do. Yeah, but they, it's just a major step back. And my brother brought it up the other day, and I don't necessarily disagree. Like, it's going to be time to pay Breece Hall, and he said I'd be fine with him walking, and I think I am too. And it's not that the production's not there, but it's like, you got a young guy with Braylon Allen who's only 20 years old, like, in the position, like, if you're not going to use him, don't pay him. I don't know. The Jets are just dumpster fire. So hopefully, we get a new head coach this year. And I think I will say people are overreacting, because that, like, I had a guy in a dynasty, or a guy asked me, he's like, would you rather Bucky Irving or Breece Hall for dynasty? And I'm like, Breece Hall. And he's like, why? I'm like, because I'm not going to overreact completely. Like, don't get me wrong, Bucky's good, but like, he's been on a hot streak, but I'm still taking Breece Hall. They're 1 year apart, but I don't know. I would just be nervous about all Jets options until they get a new coach in there and OC.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you believe Connor Hughes, but he's SNY reporter for the Jets and Giants, mostly Jets. But he said just today, he's like, I know for a fact Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are extremely frustrated in how they're being used. And that's very alarming from your 2 young stars.
Yeah, they're not being used properly. That's for sure. They're not being used at the right way at all. Not nearly enough. So, I mean, I think we would have had a better chance of like we were 7-10. We started out 5-2 the year Bryce Hall, tears his ACL, and we were using him like crazy before that happens. So I don't know why he's a guy that should be getting the ball like Saquon Barkley volume-esque, because he should be pushing 30 touches a game, and he's not coming close to that. Like he had 12 touches this week, and we lost. So I don't get it.
Doesn't make sense. And he's an elite receiver out of the backfield too. So how about we get him involved?
I think he had 1 target and 0 catches. The utilization makes 0 sense.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Commanders just beating the hell out of the Titans here, 42-19. This game was over in the first quarter, 21-0 lead for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, 206, 3 touchdowns. Did have a pick, but no worries. Brian Robinson Jr. runs for over 100 and a touchdown here. Chris Rodriguez, 94 and a touchdown. Jaden added his own touchdown to the ground. Terry, 2 more to add on to his phenomenal season. Finally has a quarterback, and Terry's been balling out. The corpse of Zach Ertz continues to play good ball. Another touchdown here for 35 yards. Really, this Commanders offense gets back on track after a little bit of a dry spell here. They're now 8-5. The Titans, 3-9. They're terrible. Will Levis, terrible. He did throw 2 touchdowns here and didn't throw a pick, which is nice, but Pollard fumbled. Jaquan Jackson fumbled. Will Levis fumbled, but they didn't lose it. So at least that's a positive here. But offensively, really nothing to write home about besides your boy Nick Westbrook-Ikine with 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Just crazy, honestly. That'll be a good trivia question for the future.
Oh, my goodness, bro. Yeah, like, see, if I asked something like that, if the answer was Nick Westbrook-Ikine, then you'd be like, okay, come on, dude. That's too hard. That's too difficult. I mean,
too hard.
That's brutal. My takeaway from this game, it's just another notch in the belt for the Commanders, just marching their way towards a wild card berth. And for the Titans, just 1 more week till the season's over, and you could finally. I don't know. I don't even think the Titans are going to be able to get a quarterback in the draft.
I don't want them to. I want them to give Will Levis another year. I mean, dude, you got to remember, like, he's essentially in his rookie year. I mean, he only played 9 games last year, so he's only played 18 games at this point. So, and to me, he's showing a lot of flashes. I still think the talent's there. So I would like them to give him 1 more year. If anything, bring in like one of those quarterbacks to compete with him.
That's what I was saying. Their only chance is going to be a bridge guy. They're not going to be able to get a guy in the draft that you're legitimately comfortable enough starting over Levis next year at that point. Like, you're not going to take Jalen Milroe.
No.
Maybe Cam Ward slides to you, like if the Giants or Raiders pass. But
I would give him 1 more year. But the thing is, like, does Brian Callahan get another year if he sticks 1 more year with Will Levis and it doesn't go well again? Do they give him a 3rd year to go draft his quarterback? Probably not, going off of the NFL. So that's another wrinkle. Does Brian Callahan want to sit there with Will Levis, or is he like, hey, I know this guy. I'm not taking the risk with this guy. Like, I want to go get my quarterback, and so that's an interesting aspect. But I would think they'll bring in a Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or someone like that, or even a Jameis Winston to, that's showing flashes in this league to at least compete with him for the job.
Yeah, that's fair. And you brought up a point with, will they give Callahan another year? It's just reminded me of something I saw over the weekend. Supposedly, the NFL sent out a memo to all the owners in the offseason saying, like, hey, over the last 5 years, in totality, the league has spent like tens of millions. It might have been it might have been over 100 million. It was a shit ton of money on fired coaches and executives, where it's not like players where there's guaranteed and not guaranteed. Coaches and executives, that's a guaranteed contract that you sign. So you're still paying. Like, some teams are paying 3 coaches, right? Like the Giants for a little bit were paying 3 coaches. That's something to be mindful of as we go to the offseason. It's like, do teams start showing some more patience? Especially for a guy like Callahan, where, yeah, they have 3 wins, but yeah, they tried to load up this year by bringing in some veterans like Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, but it just hasn't worked out. How long is his leash? Are coaches going to start getting some longer leashes? I don't know.
I would hope. I mean, I would hope. I mean, you would think like, him, Canales,
Dayball.
Well, what do you mean Dayball?
Well, Dayball might. They seem like he might keep his job despite them being bad. I thought that's what we were talking about.
I think
like
they should fire Dayball. No,
coaches.
I'm talking about coaches who are in year one who came into bad situations who shouldn't just lose it after 1 year. Like Canales, at least the Panthers have shown some flashes. Like
and Bryce Young looks a lot better. We didn't even get there yet.
That's what I'm saying. So, and then like with the Titans, like, while the defense has been really good for the most part. I mean, just another week where, a lot of turnovers putting the defense in bad spots. So you look at the box score and you're like 42 points. The defense sucks. Like, yeah, how are you expecting them to be good when they're fumbling the ball back-to-back drives on, right away, fumble by the running back, they score, then kick return, they fumble. So it's just setting them up for failure. So I don't know. I would hope that it changes a little bit with the league format in the coaching cycles.
I agree. All right, let's move on. The Houston Texans 23-20 over the Jaguars. Houston now 8-5. Jags 2-10. Wasn't very pretty here for the Texans and CJ Stroud, who's been kind of struggling recently. Threw for 242 and a touchdown. It doesn't look very bad on paper, but when you put in perspective that the Jaguars do have the worst passing defense in football, not ideal. Nico did have 8 for 119. Schultz 61 and a touchdown, but outside of that, I mean, Tank Dell only had 1 catch on 4 targets. It's pretty alarming, and really no one has been able to step up outside of Nico, Schultz, and I guess Tank when Nico was out of the lineup, but with Nico in the lineup, really Tank's been an afterthought. Mixon continues his dominant run, 100 yards and a touchdown yet again. For the Jaguars, Mac Jones, 235, 2 touchdowns, had a couple misses that weren't ideal. It was ETN out carrying Bigsby here, 13-7 carries, but neither was particularly efficient. And the leading receiver, 6 for 103 and a touchdown, Parker Washington, huh?
There you go,
Parker Washington action. Brian Thomas Jr., 4 for 76 and a touchdown on 10 targets. Could have been a monster game. Oh, man. I just want to highlight one thing for the Texans before you take the floor. Derek Stingley with a pick here. Stingley looks legit this season, dude. He's living up to that draft status now.
I'm just laughing because I remember last year when Big Dawg made the video about Parker Washington to have over 50 receiving yards, and it was like plus like 1,000, and everyone was giving him so much shit, and now he goes for 6 for 103 and 1. I gotta text him about that. That's fucking hilarious.
That is nuts.
But yeah, I mean the Texans, man, like I'm still not sold on this team. This team seems like they're going to be a first round exit. I mean they've lost to some bad teams this year, like playing the Jaguars like this, letting them come back with Mac Jones. It's they're not a good team. They're not a good team. And CJ Stroud is having a major sophomore slump. Like he has not impressed me at all this year. So I don't know. There's big issues in Houston. They just happen to be the best team out of a really shitty division, but I mean, they're not even the same competition of the Bills, the Chiefs, even the Steelers and the Ravens, even the Chargers at this point. I mean, I don't know. They're going to end up being probably the 4 seed, and they're going to get stuck playing the Ravens in the first round or the Chargers, and it's going to be a bad matchup for them.
Yeah, they certainly are a team that scares me right now. Like they're a team that's certainly going to make the dance, but I'm not really worried about them getting through the AFC, and there's no way they could beat Kansas City on the road or Buffalo on the road, in my opinion.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, let's move on. The Rams 21-14 over the Saints. The Rams now 6-6. And hey, they're in it in the NFC West. It's now the 49ers in last place, which is crazy. Who would have thought that after week 13? The Saints now at 4-8. Their season is done. Stafford at $183, 2 touchdowns. Kyren Williams, one of his better games, 15 for 104, just from an efficiency standpoint. And he did get back in the end zone here, which is great to see. Blake Corum got 8 carries. That was interesting for me. It's been all Kyren Williams, but Blake Corum gets 8 for 42 here. It was kind of getting involved in the second quarter a little early. So, something to look out for. I'll just say that. Something to look out for. Blake Corum's coming.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's, a long season. Kyron's been very efficient. And then at the end of the game, they're still trusting Sean McVay's still trusting him. Kyron's getting a huge, first down to ice the game. So I'm not too worried about that. I just think, at the end of the day, if you're going to spend a pick on a guy that was established, there might be some weeks where, you can lessen the load a little bit and, mix things up. So I wouldn't be worried about that long term.
I will say this, if you have very deep benches, Blake Corum's a guy I would stash for the home stretch in fantasy, just because Kyren has shown that he has durability concerns in previous years. And whoever's playing running back in a Sean McVay offense is a smash play no matter what. So if you have a deep bench, if you're holding two defenses, I'm just saying, stash.
Well, if you're the Kyren Williams owner, you should definitely have him because if Kyren is to miss any time, Corum is going to be getting like all the volume. And, there's a couple running backs out there like Trey Benson, Braylon Allen. I mean, I thought it was Jordan Mason, but apparently Isaac Garendo. I mean, there's some of these guys out there that it's like you want to get them because if an injury happens to the starter, like they're going to slide right in and take over that volume. I mean, look what happened with Chase Brown. It was kind of like a timeshare between him and Zach Moss, and it was going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, there goes Zach Moss, and Chase Brown is like all of the touches. Like Khalil Herbert got traded for and finally had his first carry after like 3 weeks of being on the roster. So definitely, Corum's another guy that should be on a roster at the very minimum.
Yeah, thank God the Bengals gave up that draft pick to get Khalil Herbert, right, in a lost season, and he gets one carry in 3 weeks. It's just really smart business from the Bengals over there. Puka had 5 for 56 and a touchdown. Demarcus Robinson punched one in here. Defense played really well for the Rams. Derek Carr, 184 and a touchdown. Kamara runs for $112, but it does not matter because they can barely do anything through the air except Valdes-Scantling scoring his 4th touchdown. Really cool. He said, feels good to feel wanted where I'm at. And I'm like, that's interesting. You bounced around from the Chiefs and the Bills, won a few rings, but at least he's scoring some touchdowns now for the Saints.
Yeah, gotta love it. This is why we play. Yeah,
the Bucks.
I don't know. With the Saints, it's just there's not a whole lot to write home about right now. I mean, they're definitely a team that I'm looking at to maybe draft a quarterback next year. It'll be interesting.
What, you don't believe in your boy Rattler now? What the fuck?
Ratman, no.
I don't believe in the Ratman.
I mean, at least he got a chance.
Hey, it took overtime, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stay alive and beats the Panthers to improve to 6-6. Panthers now 3-9. Baker, not his best game. 235, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Not ideal against this Panthers defense, but Bucky Irving held up his end of the bargain. 25 for $152 and a touchdown. Also added 33 through the air. Rock White was also efficient through the air. On the ground, 11 for 76. So maybe the Panthers target running backs against their run defense, huh? Who's playing the Panthers next week? It might be whoever's playing the Panthers, whoever's
Eagles.
Playing the Giants. Oh, Barkley's going to be minus 350 to score, so can't even put that in Big Dogs.
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
Fucking like minus 200 to get 100 rushing yards.
Oh, yeah, dude, for sure. That's going to be his line is like probably 115 yards. Mike Evans, 8 for $118 and a touchdown. That's awesome. Mike Evans, welcome back. For the Panthers, Bryce Young, 298, very close to 300. Touchdown here. Thielen was a dog. Scored a touchdown with 99. Tommy Tremble. Xavier Legette, 4 for 53. Come on. Is Bryce Young back on track? Is he going to live up to the number 1 pick status? I get it. This Bucs defense isn't elite in the secondary, but the last couple of weeks, you got to like what you've seen from Bryce Young. Gives you hope. He's certainly your quarterback going into 2025.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. They're not going to draft anyone now. I think Canales and him are safe for sure. It'll be interesting. You'd like to see them get some more weapons around him. And I will say, obviously Hubbard's a very good running back, but Jonathan Brooks looked pretty good to me. He's a physical runner.
That one reception he had was he had some nice moves for a guy coming off that knee injury, still getting his feet under him.
Yeah, no, but he definitely seems like he'll be a nice piece for them. And I know Mike Evans is going to need to average, I saw it was like 99.5 yards per game before this graphic to keep that streak going. Now, after 118, I think it's about 95 yards. So it'll be interesting to see, if he can get another 480 yards over the next 5 games.
Honestly, I would not be shocked. With no Chris Godwin in the picture, I'm pretty sure Baker knows that streak's on the line.
Oh, and no, they literally said on the broadcast, Baker Mayfield's he doesn't care about it, but all the offense wants it, and they know, he's the driving force behind it. So, if they're even to miss the playoffs and out of the picture, I think he's just going to hyper target the shit out of him in week 18 to make sure he gets it.
Yeah, I don't know their schedule down the stretch, but that's something I'm interested to see because, obviously you're starting Mike Evans in fantasy, but if you have him and he's got some juicy matchups, you got to be feeling pretty good about your chances going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles take care of the Ravens 24-19 to improve to 10-2. The Ravens 8-5. Jalen Hurts only had to throw the ball 19 times here against this Ravens defense, which has struggled against the pass a little bit, which is pretty crazy given the talent they have in the back end. He threw for 118 and a touchdown here. Barkley continues his hot streak, going for a $107 and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts, nice little push. Should have been a false start, but whatever. Punches it in. Back at the board. A.J. Brown, 66. Goddard had a touchdown. No Devontae Smith, so this passing attack did struggle a little bit, but they're able to take control on the ground. For Baltimore, Lamar, 237, 2 touchdowns. Ran for 79 yards on 8 carries, but his mom was pissed that he did not run the ball more, and Lamar said he is pissed. They have a bye next week. He said he's looking forward to the Giants game. I personally am not. But I'd imagine the Ravens might hang 50 points that game because they seem a little ticked off, sitting at 8-5. You think they're a better team than that? Derrick Henry at 82 rushing yards. Receiving-wise, Zay Flowers, 3 for 74. Andrew scores again, likely scores. But at the end of the day, they only scored 19 points against this Eagles defense, which has been playing some really good football in recent weeks.
Yeah, dude. And on top of that, which is, interesting to me, and which honestly has been the biggest storyline to me, and I'm going to keep harping on it. But the fact that Jalen Hurts over, since week 4, so the first 4 games, he was over 30 passing attempts in every game. Since week 4 and on, so week 5 on, he hasn't even gone over 30 passing attempts. So I think, that is the key recipe. Obviously, he didn't need to do a whole lot here, only throwing the ball 19 times. But I just think if they keep relying on the run game, because, 19 passing attempts to 33 running attempts, it's going to go far. But look at them. They're 10-2. I believe they have now won. How many have they won? Yeah, they have now won 8 in a row. So they're 8-0. Let me just say that to you. They're 8-0 when Jalen Hurts doesn't attempt 30-plus passing attempts. So, like I said,
man. It's a crazy
stat. That is the recipe to them winning because they have honed in so much last year on making him a pocket passer, which he is not. And he is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But he's most dangerous when he can use his legs. I'd rather him run the ball 10 times a game than let him sit in the pocket and add 10 more passing attempts. He's better using his legs. They're better being a run-first team. That's why they were so good 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl. And then last year when they brought in Kellen Moore, they struggled so much because they tried to make him a pass-first quarterback, which he is not and which he will never be. So I think that will be the key recipe down the stretch is that, yeah, maybe he'll get over 30 passing attempts in that game. But as long as they're almost doubling up their rushing attempts to their passing attempts, I think the Eagles will be winning all those games. And obviously, I'm not going to just say it's the offensive changes because the defense has been playing at an elite level. But to me, that has been the biggest reason why they've been so successful.
Yeah, and it certainly helps when your defense is night and day better compared to last year. Last year, their secondary was so bad where they had to play from behind. You're putting Jalen Hurts in positions. Now, not in the beginning of the season when they started 10-1, but down the stretch when they collapsed. And you're putting Jalen in a position where he's not as comfortable because then teams start dialing up the blitz on Jalen. They have man coverage, and that's where he struggles. Now, when you have a run game that's this good and you can work play action off it and Jalen can get outside the pocket a little bit. I mean, I saw A.J. Brown before this week, I saw he was like 7th in receiving in the league, but obviously he missed a good stretch, like 4 or 5 games. But he had 38 catches and had over 700 yards. They're not throwing the ball a lot, but when they are, it's explosive. A.J. Brown down the field, Devontae Smith down the field, and Goddard's made some big plays too. So that's the recipe for the Eagles right now, especially when your defense is playing that well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, it's 1A and 1B with them in Detroit right now. I think you're being crazy if you're going to put Detroit above them or vice versa. I mean, they're both the hottest 2 teams in the NFC right now. And they both
has to be the NFC Championship. It has to be.
You would think. I mean, because if anyone wants to say Detroit's been playing better, Eagles are on an 8-game winning streak. They haven't been beatable at all. So, yeah, I feel very confident in them to come out. I mean, they were my prediction out of the NFC. I said if any NFC team coming into the year would win the Super Bowl, it would be them. So I'm liking the look of that right now.
Who'd you have in the AFC? It was the Jets, correct?
Yeah,
right?
It was because did I really believe it? No, but what kind of fan would I be if I didn't say them? I mean, if
I didn't pick the Giants to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, but if the Giants had Super Bowl,
Jets have 3 wins, Giants have 2. We're in the same boat here.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if the Giants had Super Bowl expectations coming into the year, would you not have picked them to win the Super Bowl?
It doesn't. You could rationalize it all you want. I didn't pick the Giants in the Super Bowl. You picked the Jets. They're both picking top fucking 10 right now.
I have a Giants Super Bowl ticket. That's garbage.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. That makes me feel a little bit better.
All right, Reagan. We got one more game to wrap up here. Sunday Night Football. The Bills. We already talked about it pretty extensively, but 35-10 win for the Bills to improve to 10-2, 6-0 at home. Nobody wants to go to Buffalo in December or January. Nobody. And the way they're playing right now, man, I'm a little worried about the Bills. The Chiefs better keep winning because the Bills, if they take that number 1 seed, I have a hard time thinking anyone's going to go into Buffalo. I think Kansas City's the only team that can go into Buffalo and beat them in the postseason this year, the way this Bills team is looking.
No, I still think the Steelers could because defensively they can.
I disagree. Wholeheartedly. When was the last time the Steelers have done some damage in the playoffs? When was the last time they've won a playoff game?
It's been a while, but I would say this is probably the most.
So why do you have faith in them?
Because this is, even with as stagnant as their offense has looked at times, this is still the best offense I feel like they've had in years.
Yes, I would say it's the best offense they've had since Ben Roethlisberger.
And even then, like the last couple of years, it really wasn't great.
No, it wasn't. It was just him being
this
smart.
Defense is probably the best I've seen it play in a while. And I'm just saying, defense travels. So, I don't know. I would say, if there's any team outside of Kansas City that could give them a little bit of pause, it would be the Steelers. I still would pick the Bills to beat the Steelers, but I'm just saying, I think the Bills would handle the Ravens. I think they would handle the Chargers. Texans, for sure, they would handle. And then the Broncos, they would handle.
Yeah, certainly. Josh Allen only threw the ball 17 times, but completed 13 passes for $148, 2 touchdowns, had another touchdown on the ground, and we mentioned it, the receiving touchdown, technically to Amari, back to him. He gets in. Really cool play in the snow. Love to see it. James Cook had over 100 yards and another touchdown. He's been a touchdown machine.
Couldn't get the wheel. Had to be Ray Davis.
Yeah, what the fuck was that, man? Ray Davis, 11 for 63, and of course the first touchdown. I mean, come on,
was Ray Davis even on the wheel?
God, there's no way Ray Davis on the wheel. Dave doesn't know who Ray Davis is.
No shot, dude. Well, 2 things. Yeah, I mean, listen. I don't know who he was, and no, he was not on the wheel.
He's on my taxi spot.
I don't blame you. Oh, that's really cool because Isaac Guerendo's on mine. Bet you didn't know that.
Dave, who's on your taxi spot?
He doesn't know what a taxi spot is.
I don't have anybody in my taxi spot. I don't even know how that works.
You think the second to last player in the league would have some rookies stashed in their taxi spot?
The way the taxi spot works is before the season starts, you can put rookies there. It's basically like redshirting them. So you should, no matter what, pick up 3 rookies and just leave them there. And if they happen to be good and playable, then you take them off. But once you take them off, you can't put them back on. So you're basically redshirting them.
So you can take them off.
You can take them off. You just can't put them back on.
Yeah.
So like mine, I had Spencer Rattler, Ray Davis, and Dylan Lawlby. Dylan Lawlby blows, but I'm not going to drop him yet because there's no point. Ray Davis has been good, but he's not going to crack my lineup ever, so I'm keeping him there. And then Spencer Rattler obviously sucks, but still put him there. So it's definitely worth it if you're in a dynasty league. You're not doing your due diligence if you're not filling your taxi spots. Me, I picked up Puka the year prior and put him on my taxi spot. And obviously we know he was very playable. So by week 3, he was off that taxi spot when he proved to be a legit player. So, if you're looking to win a dynasty league or make a difference, put in some lottery tickets on your taxi spot.
I picked up this year in my one league. It's a 10-man league, 4-round draft. So 40 players were picked. Bucky Irving was not drafted. I picked up Bucky Irving, put him on my taxi. And look at this shit.
How is he not drafted?
Look at Bucky Irving now. Like you dead ass have a case that Bucky Irving's like a top 10 dynasty back the way he's been playing and given he's a rookie.
Understand? So, how did he not get drafted?
Dude, don't ask me.
That's wild.
I passed on him too. I mean, I took other backs, so I didn't take him, and I picked him up right away. Yeah, absolutely crazy. So,
but that's my point. So Dave, next year fill up that taxi spot. I'm sure by then you'll be asking what it is again, but.
Yeah, he's not going to remember, dude. He's probably going to be totally zoned out, forget what a taxi is. He doesn't even know what a red shirt is, probably.
No, I know what a red shirt is, dick. I will say, though, I appreciate that. You learn something new every day, and I'm going to be taking advantage of that taxi spot next year.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't said this on the podcast.
What's that Uber spot you guys were talking about?
I listen to the podcast every day. I've never heard you guys talk about taxis.
I have talked about the taxi spot.
We have talked about the taxi.
No, you have.
Particularly before the season. Yes, we have.
I 100% did.
I don't remember that.
It's all right. So. It's all right. Don't, when you're, maybe next year after the draft, it'll be late August. You'll be like, you're going to be leaving the club being like, taxi. And you'll be like, oh, that's right. Taxi spot. Let me go pick up some rookies. Got to remember it somehow.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But yeah, I guess to wrap up this game, Purdy was terrible in the snow. Jordan Mason was pretty good, but now he's out for the year. So it's the Isaac Guerrero show. Did have a touchdown, 19 yards. Jawan Jennings, 3 for 56, the leading receiver. God damn it. Got Garrett the win. Heartbreaker. Would have been nice to see him lose. I want to see him duke it out in the first round, but it might be me. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the Niners sitting at 5-7. No more McCaffrey. Obviously, no Brandon Ayuk for extended stretch. Bosa was out.
Tough schedule coming up.
Out. Yeah, the Niners, man. Is the window closed? We'll end on this. Is the window closed for the 49ers?
All right. Thanks for listening. No, I'm fucking with you. No, I wouldn't say it's definitely not closed because, McCaffrey will be back like next year.
But you got one more year of rookie deal Purdy. With the extension, you can push money down the road to give you a 2-3 year window. It depends on if McCaffrey comes back healthy next season, I think.
Yeah, I would. It's definitely not closed. It's definitely not. But it's closing. It's closing. The season's not even officially over. They could win the next 5 and nobody would bat an eye and be like, yeah, that's just the 49ers. So I doubt it'll happen, but the window's definitely not closed. It might be closed on this year, but next year coming in, I would still imagine they're going to be the favorite to be, winning the NFC West, and they'll be one of the top teams in terms of odds to win the Super Bowl.
All right, that wraps up our pod, Reagan. I got to say, it was great being back. It felt good to talk some ball again. Damn, I missed it. We'll be back Wednesday, I believe.
Yes, Wednesday with predictions. It'll be a shorter pod with 6 teams on bye, the last bye week. We'll get you guys right for those, those in crunch situations to make that one last playoff push because it is the last week before the fantasy playoffs. Check us out on the different platforms. We're going to have some punishment videos coming out. Crew necks are on sale, so hit us up. For those of you who got a sweatshirt today with our Cyber Monday deal, congrats on saving $5. And yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday.